o'clock and the soccer cleat is missing that you need for soccer practice that starts in an hour. Your husband just called and said he's going to be late from work. You haven't had a chance to send that urgent email out to your fellow basketball moms about the tournament that's happening this weekend. You just realized you forgot to thaw dinner, or perhaps you discover that you're missing an ingredient to make dinner. Nothing is going right during today's witching hour, which is pretty much every day's witching hour. Nothing ever seems to go right by the time you get to 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And there are many reasons for that we're going to dive into here in this 4th episode of the Erin Chase Show. I want you to think for a minute real quick what it's like when you sit down, that moment that you sit down at the dinner table with your family. Think about that for a second. What does it feel like? How do you feel? I think I know how you feel. Now, I want you to think about what you want to feel like in that moment when you sit down at the dinner table with your people. My guess is that now you feel really frazzled and like you just want to take your dinner and go hide in the closet and eat it by yourself. I know I felt that way many times over the years. Well, I want you to think about what you want to feel like. You want to feel excited to be having dinner with your family. You want to be grateful that dinner prep just went really well for you. Seems like a foreign concept, I know, but there are some really simple things that we can do to get from that frazzled to sitting down and enjoying that time with your family. Soon, I want you to feel confident and cool as you sit down and connect with your family at the dinner table. That is what we are after, and we're going to dig into some easy, practical ways to go from hot mess express to confident in the kitchen. That's what we are digging into today. We all know the research and we've read the articles about how important it is to eat with our families and have those important conversations day after day and week after week. It really does matter to the health and benefit of your family. So I'm not going to bore you with all that research because we already all know that. But what I do want to share today is 3 simple ways to help you through this witching hour. The first step is to work with your schedule. And if you've listened to episode 3 of the Erin Chase Show, we've talked a little bit about this. We're going to dig a little deeper. I want you to look at your schedule and work with your schedule. You need to identify which days of the week, and it's often, it comes and goes as activities and seasons and things change, but it's often that you have certain appointments or certain practices or certain events that are happening both on the regular and on the irregular, right? So you need to be identifying, these are the days of the week that I just always need to do this type of meal, whether it's a skillet meal or it's a pasta meal or it's chicken and rice night or it's not Taco Tuesday because you really need Taco Monday, right? You need to make your meal prep work with your schedule. You've heard me talk about my Thursday glum where I just don't feel like cooking on Thursday. So I let the slow cooker, sometimes the Instant Pot, do the cooking for me so that it's easier for me to power through that Thursday afternoon meal prep session when I just don't feel like it. Like Thursday's coming, it's 2 days away. I already know I'm not gonna feel like cooking on Thursday. I know. And I do. I have a positive attitude about it. I really do. But it's just a trouble spot for me. And it's something that I've had to push through and learn to get around. And that's how I've done it. I've learned to get around it by having dinner essentially take care of itself on that particular day. Same with appointments. When I know that we have an activity, I'll plan around that. Sometimes I'll even plan for almost 2 dinners, if you will, if the activity is at a certain time where we can't, we need to eat early, but then they're hungry again by 8:30. So a perfect example of that was right before Christmas, we had a winter concert. I planned 2 dinners. I planned a very light dinner before, and I planned to go out to dinner afterwards. I planned that. Again, if you go back to listen to episode 3, you know I'm not against going out to eat. I'm not against the drive-thru. I am pro planning for that and pro making sure that that all fits into your budget. 2 other things about your schedule. Get Get creative. Maybe weeknight dinners are not the best time for you and your family to connect together. I actually have a friend, they have 2 kiddos with 2 activities in 2 parts of town. So it's kind of a divide and conquer thing for them most evenings. And so they are very intentional about connecting on the weekends. They'll have a nice long leisurely brunch on Saturday or Sunday morning, depending on their weekend schedule. They're just extra intentional because they don't have that family meal time together as often during the week. And last thing about your schedule, I want you to be protective of it. I want you to say no to things if it starts to infringe. Remember, we're trying to keep dinner a priority. We talked about that in episode 3. We're trying to keep these connections with our family a priority. And if all of a sudden you have 7 days a week with crazy activities and you've completely lost these connection points, time to reconsider and possibly say no. One of the days of the week that I have been oddly protective of over the last couple of years is Wednesdays. For whatever reason, we haven't had that many activities or events fall on Wednesday nights, and I am uber protective of that particular day of the week. There has to be a really great reason or event going on for me to say, okay, we already have other things happening other nights of the week. It's hard for us to connect on those nights. Wednesdays is it. I'm real protective of that. Weekends, it's friends coming here, friends, kids going there. It's kind of people everywhere. And so for whatever reason, I have held on to that, and I am overly protective of that day because I want that time together as a family. It's super important, especially as we have teenagers in the house now. Oh my goodness, they're so much harder to connect with because they're off floating around doing all their different things and chatting with their friends on their phones and after school activities and sports and whatnot. And so I want to give you permission to be protective of whatever day of the week or meal of the week. It doesn't have to be Wednesday night. It doesn't have to be Monday night, whenever. Be protective of your schedule. It's okay to say no to things in order to prioritize that time with your family. All right, step 1, working with your schedule. Step 2, working with your people. We've talked a lot about connecting with our family in the last few minutes, and this is also a fantastic time to connect with your kids. The time together in the kitchen, prepping for meals, getting the dinner table ready, getting the meal ready is a fantastic time to come and have your kids work alongside you. They're going to learn really fantastic, important life skills, whether it's how to chop an onion or how to scramble an egg or how to cook bacon in the oven. It's a really important life skill right there. Whatever it is, you want them in there working with you. And I know you're thinking, oh, how do I do that? When do I start that? You can start it whenever you want. I know 2 and 3-year-olds that are very proficient at measuring and helping bake, right? It just depends on the kid, and it depends on you, and it depends on what you want to teach them. But I am a big believer in working yourself out of the job, essentially training your kids to help you with this, because there's a lot going on. And if I can have a kid who can make taco soup tonight, I do actually, 2 of them that can do that now. That's fantastic. I don't have to be in the kitchen during that witching hour, right? So working yourself out of the job is very important, but I think more so is having that time and connecting with them and teaching them how to make the taco soup. It takes a couple of weeks to do, a couple of rounds and tries, right? Just thinking about any time you would teach anybody anything, you're gonna stand right next to them and teach them how to do it and watch them and make sure that they're opening the cans and draining properly and browning the ground beef properly, right? All those things. And then the next time you help them, you're just gonna kind of stand and watch and make sure they don't miss a step. Just holler once or twice as they're going through the process. The third time you're gonna watch from sitting down at the counter. I know sitting down at the counter, it sounds crazy. We'll get there. Watching them just from across the room. And then you're gonna just let them do it, and you're gonna show up at the dinner table and dinner's ready, right? It's just a quick look at kind of working yourself out of the job and getting your kids in there and helping you with meal prep time. It doesn't have to be your teenagers. Your 6 and 7 and 8-year-olds can learn these important things. Then of course those skills are gonna build on each other. It takes a little time, it takes a little patience, but think about the time you're gonna reap later. Think about how many times you're not going to have to prep dinner because you have a kid who knows how to put honey mustard chicken into the oven, right? So think about that. It's hard in the moment. It feels extra stressful and overwhelming in the moment, but you need to think longer term and think about the process of training them and what that can help them do. Same goes with the chores. A 4-year-old can set the table, maybe not with glass things. We don't often use glass in our house, but they can set the table. You just have to teach them how to do it. You have to make it fun. Whatever reward you want to, motivation or reward you want to add in there, go ahead and do that so that it's fun for them and it's something that they want to do and that they're eager to do day in and day out. Anything you can do to get your people working with you and for you is setting yourself up for way less frazzled during the meal prep hour. Number 1, working with our schedule. Number 2, working with our people. Number 3, boundaries in and around the kitchen. Now, I just told you all about how it was like, keep your kids with you, working with you in the kitchen. Well, I'm going to flip that here for a quick minute and talk about boundaries in the kitchen, both physical boundaries as well as mental and emotional boundaries for yourself. Let's dive into that first one, mental and physical boundaries for yourself. If you are coming to the point where it's that time in your day where it's time to, kind of flip into the kitchen and go into meal prep mode, and you are so frazzled, you have that mental tornado going on in your brain, you just can't, like all the things are just building out. I need you to take a time out. Like for real, take yourself a timeout. If you have teeny tiny people and you can't actually leave them alone in a room and go to another room, I want you to just sit on the couch for 5 minutes. And what's gonna happen is the first 4.5 minutes, you're gonna feel really strange and you're gonna feel really guilty about sitting there and doing nothing, but I need you to sit there and do nothing. If they're crawling all over you, just pretend they're not there just for a hot minute, because that last 30 seconds, you're just gonna it's just gonna fall out. I promise. Just trust me on this. Try it. It's gonna fall out. You're gonna get up and you're gonna go in and you're gonna do your meal prep and you will feel less frazzled. I promise. I need you to trust me. I need you to try it, especially if you have teeny tiny ones at home. If you can't, get yourself into another room by yourself. I know that sounds a little, take some ice cream in the closet, have yourself a little ice cream appetizer in the closet, no judgment here, have totally done this. Go and take a minute for yourself, reset, take a second to just think about what I like to do in these moments is what am I grateful for? Why am I fussing so much in my head? What am I grateful for? I'm grateful that I have food to feed my family tonight. I'm grateful that I have a kitchen to cook in. I'm grateful that we're gonna have some time together as a family tonight. Those quick little notes to myself can make such a difference as I move into the kitchen, and I hope that they will do the same for you. Mental boundaries, emotional boundaries, take yourself a time out, reset yourself mentally, get into the kitchen, get that meal prep, and then you're gonna, again, sitting down at the table, feeling cool, confident, that's what we're after. Having a quick reset before you get into the kitchen is gonna help you to do that. Second here with boundaries is physical boundaries. And I think this is most helpful for if you have little people in your life. And I'm gonna tell you a story of when I lived in the Dominican Republic about a family that I would babysit for. Their kids are actually all grown in college now, which is so crazy. It's fun seeing updates of them. But she had a piece of tape on the ground at the kind of entry of their kitchen. And I didn't know they had a rule, but they had a rule that the kids were not allowed in the kitchen while mom was prepping, whether it was the snack or the lunch or the dinner. And I remember thinking, okay, that's strange, but kind of nice. There's nobody that I'm gonna step on right now while I'm getting their peanut butter and jelly ready for lunch or whatever I was doing that day. And I didn't fully understand why she had that rule until I had my own children. And I was day in, day out, toddlers pulling on pant legs, babies who are newly walkers trying to, be picked up while I'm trying to pour the pasta into the strainer in the sink, right? So there are some real reasons to keep your little people out of the kitchen until they're ready to be helping you, right? So there's don't hear me wrong here. There is a bridge, and there is a point and a phase where, yes, we would be inviting them into the kitchen to help. But I want you to consider the physical boundaries of not having the kids in the kitchen while you're doing meal prep. Even with my older boys now, I'll full on collide and bump into them in the kitchen when it's like active meal prep time, like we're trying to get main dish ready and side dish ready and somebody's going to get the ketchup from the fridge. Like it becomes a little bit of a dangerous situation, especially if there are hot pans, hot, casserole dishes, boiling water, things like that. And so you want to consider these things. Are we inviting our kids into the kitchen, or should we be setting boundaries, physical boundaries that, when I was with the Keltner kids, they would just stand there and we would just chat while I was getting things ready, and they would say, oh, I want extra carrots, or oh, I want extra this or that. But they were right there. So it wasn't like they were excommunicated from the kitchen. It didn't feel like that in the moment. So yes, it would take a little bit of training and a little bit of practice and maybe perhaps a piece of tape on the ground to help the kids learn that, mom or dad needs this time and needs to be safe in the kitchen to prepare whatever it is that we're preparing. And then when it's time, I'm going to invite you in and we're going to spend a few minutes together, whether it's you're standing there while they're eating their snack, or you're putting things away while they're eating their snack, or you're having lunch or dinner together, whatever it might be. I want you to consider that, because if that's going to help you, if that physical boundary is going to help smooth out your meal prep experience, it's going to, again, help you go from frazzled, oh my gosh, stop pulling on my pant leg, to not, then I want you to consider implementing that in your own kitchen. If you have a teeny tiny one who maybe can't really control themselves yet, 12, 13, 14-month-old new walker that could get into trouble, and you need to be very, maybe have a chair or a stool that they could sit in nearby and just, munch on a light snack while you're doing this. I think that would be really helpful. And again, this is about boundaries for yourself and for your people. So going back to, we want to teach our kids and we want them to learn and we want to connect with them in the kitchen, but we also know that there are important and potentially safety reasons for having a physical boundary. And so I want you to think about, maybe it's one or the other, depending on how old your children are. Maybe it's a combination of both. So Monday night is kind of a free night for you. You have a little bit more time and flexibility in your schedule. So that's going to be the night when the kids are in the kitchen with you. But then you also know that maybe it's Thursdays, you're Thursday glum like me. You don't want anybody in the kitchen with you. So Thursdays is going to be mom's alone in the kitchen. You guys are going to play in the living room right here. The baby's going to have a light snack right here. And then you're going to freely move about the kitchen and be as efficient as you can. So thinking about how to, combine these two, working yourself out of the job, but you also need your own mental and physical space. So how can you work together, or how can you make those two things work together for you? Again, goal, frazzled right now, cool and confident as we sit down and enjoy dinner with our family. Let's think about what I shared at the top of the episode, thinking about what dinner and sitting down, that moment of sitting down. I want you to think into that moment. What is that like now? And what could that be now that we've talked through a little bit of that? What do you want that to look like? How about feeling? You want to feel that confidence. You want to feel collected. You want to feel together as you sit down. Is this going to happen every night? Probably not, but that's what we're after. We want to feel that way. And ultimately, we want to feel that connection point with our family. These last 2 episodes have been about that feeling connectedness, and this is the meal prep portion of that, but that's what we are after. Finally, on your worksheets, taking action, write down one thing, something you thought of as we were talking the last couple minutes, something that you thought of that you can do differently to make the meal prep session, that witching hour, that afternoon dinner prep time, smoother. What's one thing that you can do to make that better in your home? Okay, where do you write that down? If you haven't yet, you can download the accompanying worksheet for all these episodes in this first series at erinchase.io. Quick recap: no more frazzled meal prep, working with your schedule, working with your people, and setting boundaries. I would love for you to subscribe to the Erin Chase Show, and I would love for you to write a review as well. It helps me to bring you the right type of episodes and contents, and it helps others find the show as well. So that's it for this 4th episode, my friend. It's bye for now, and we'll talk again soon.